Welcome to the Space Dojo show. I'm your host, Josh Owens, along with a special guest co-host today, Chris Aloi. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Yeah. And then our guest of honor today is Jen Looper. She is from Telerik, and we're going to talk a little bit about NativeScript. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you very much. I have to do a tiny correction because we just unveiled our rebranding.
Oh.
So I'm actually from Progress.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice. Yeah. So it's funny. I live here in Cincinnati, and
Modulus.
Progress bought Modulus.
Yes.
So, kind of a similar deal. And right after, like the next quarter, they bought Telerik. So
Yeah, they went on a little buying binge, and they got us and Rollbase, Modulus, and some other folks. And I think the M&A era is over. So now it's a question of like getting everybody on the same page.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about NativeScript and what it is?
Sure. Let me just introduce myself. My name's Jen, and I'm on the developer relations team at Progress. And I work actually. My specific role is working with Telerik products by Progress. So I'm on that branch, and I report out of the Waltham office, which is the old Telerik office. Telerik has roots in the .NET community, but we've recently gotten very much ingrained in the JavaScript community. So I'm kind of on that side, and specifically within that role, I'm working on the mobile side. So I was hired as kind of like mobile person because I have a large apps portfolio. I really love mobile apps. I have a weakness on downloading them. And so I'm evangelizing specifically for Telerik platform, but I tend to talk a lot about our newest product, which is NativeScript. And NativeScript is a way that you can write truly native apps using JavaScript, XML, and CSS. If you want to, you can also bring in Angular 2, which is the unveil that we just did at ngConf. We released NativeScript 2 along with their unveil of Angular 2. So it's been a very, very exciting few weeks at Progress and on the Telerik side. So, and NativeScript is kind of the branding looks a little bit separate. If you visit nativescript.org, you'll see it's different colors. It's very blue. There's not much mention of Progress or Telerik, but we're all in the same happy family. So that's the story. So. I'm happy to answer any questions specifically about NativeScript. If you're looking to build mobile apps, it's a really nice solution to help you along.
Yeah, so I guess, it's funny, like I hadn't heard of NativeScript before, but I was talking to Todd Motto, who works with you, and we were talking about doing an Angular, 1 versus 2 comparison, and he's like, you may want to talk about NativeScript. And so I started poking around and looking at it, and it actually looks pretty cool. I'm putting on a conference in July, which is focused on building mobile apps with JavaScript, and so it really kind of piqued my curiosity. Like, what kind of big success stories have you seen people they've built and deployed something that's become popular in the store? Have you?
Yeah, so well, if you go to nativescript.org and click on the Showcases button, you'll see some apps. 2 of those are actually mine, so I can't say that they're blockbusters, but it was like these things you just build and release. The thing about our client base tends to be sort of the enterprise, so a lot of our stuff is kind of walled behind privately distributed walls. But our big success story, which we talked about at ngConf, is actually we're working with Kiva. I don't know if you're familiar with Kiva. It's a way to do microloans to individuals or groups, and it's just loans so that they'll pay you back eventually, but it's a charitable organization. And their new mobile app is going to be built in NativeScript, and our partner Wrangle is working with us and working with them to build this app. And they spun up an app within 4 weeks. In NativeScript to get sort of the flow of the microfinance. You log in, you look at the money that you have in your basket or add money, and then you designate whoever you're going to loan it to, and then you can watch it kind of filter back. I love Kiva because I I started donating to them with just $100, and now I have like $900 worth of loans that have come back and forth and back and forth. It's amazing. Like, you can just watch your impact grow. It's a really great success story, and it's really pleasant for me to see an app, built in NativeScript, for Kiva. But we're also working with some larger companies. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names, but enterprise-y type companies. We have a small shop called, the app is called Smarp Share, and I think the shop is called Smarp, and it's a social networking. That's on the showcase, so that's something to look at. But if you want to take a look at how NativeScript feels as an app, if you go to the app stores and download, it's called Examples NativeScript. I think that's what they called it. And that is a great app to just download and just feel the lack of lagginess that you're going to feel with a NativeScript app. So that's a nice thing to play with. It shows you the charts and all of the fun things that you can do with our UI components. That's really good. Yeah.
How would I as a JavaScript developer come in and start using something like NativeScript? Right. Currently, my background, any of the development I've done has been primarily with Meteor, and deployment to mobile has been through Cordova, and that workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And it works, but it doesn't have that native UI feel that you get
right.
with iOS and Android using native components.
Yeah.
How would I use? Where would I start?
Where do you start? I actually was involved in writing the Getting Started guide for the NativeScript version for plain JavaScript. So there's two ways of doing NativeScript. One is with plain vanilla JavaScript with CSS and all that. And then there's the Angular 2 flavor, which has a whole different integration. Sure. But bottom line, the hardest thing with NativeScript I've always found is the installation. Once you get past that, you can really go to town. And the trick with it is that you need to have Xcode and your Android toolchain set up. I've actually, to be honest, given up on the Android toolchain, and I just use Genymotion at this point on my Mac. I'm so tired of dealing with it. But there are some new one-line scripts that especially Windows users can use that really simplifies the installation process, so that I actually need to spin up my PC and see if I can just like slam in the one line and see if that's going to work. So once you get past the installation, though, you need to get your workflow set up. And on my Mac, I use Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
I don't know what IDEs you all are using.
I use Atom.
Okay.
Atom for a while.
Yeah, we're actually working on getting snippets for NativeScript on Atom. We already have them for Visual Studio Code. So one of our community members has created these awesome snippets. We also, I think they're available for Sublime. And then if you're on PC, the Visual Studio Code folks are well served because we always have good relations with the Microsoft group. So yeah, get your workflow set up, get your tool chains installed, get the installation done, and then you can just start writing. With the vanilla version of NativeScript, you're going to be hand coding a lot of JavaScript, and you have some flexibility in how you organize your code. So like I tend to create folders and put all of my code in folders for each page of my mobile app. If you're using Angular, however, your decisions are simplified a little because you can just follow the way the Angular system wants you to do things. So if Angular says to do this way, just continue down that line. You don't even have to worry about it. So that's kind of a simplification. But once you get down, all of those initial setup tasks completed, you can really go to town. And what's interesting to me is that I would have thought that a technology like this would be for more advanced users who kind of maybe have tried the Cordova system, maybe have, even tried a little of native development. But I'm seeing like kids at universities jumping on board and just like going straight to NativeScript. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's nice to see. Maybe I'm just like old and stupid and I can't. I don't like what. But they're just jumping on board. They're like, yeah, we're getting like spinning up mobile apps in NativeScript and JavaScript. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because I think there's a big difference between how, like, I look at how my kids are growing up versus like how I grew up, right? Like I had an Atari 800 and then I had a 486 computer and like, I didn't have a phone that could do those kinds of things. But like my kids' first introduction to technology is like an iPod or an iPad and then Apple TV and, they start to get into a computer, but not nearly as much as like I did when I first got started. So
yeah, it's very interesting, and it's moving incredibly fast, as you know. Like I have a sophomore and a senior in high school, and they are literally two generations. Like my older daughter uses Facebook. My younger daughter won't touch it.
Mm.
They both use Snapchat, but like my older daughter was jumped onto it later. It's very interesting. And you have to kind of understand like the nuances of these communities and try to reach out to them in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to the kind of like the how to build the app. I'm kind of curious. Like you'd mentioned, you can just use CSS. Like what does designing an app look like when you're using NativeScript?
So right now, if you're going in and you're hand coding it on your local using the CLI, you're responsible for the look and feel. We do have a library called NativeScript UI, which is helping. That's a paid product. That's one of the ways we're monetizing the product. But sneak peek, we're going to be launching some nice skins and helps to get people to just not worry so much about hand coding all the styles for their app, because I think that's one of the things that really made Ionic take off, because you always could spin up something that looked great no matter what. And that's been something that we didn't do initially that we are going to start spinning up, because I think people are really requesting it. They really like Fuse Tools, for example, another nice solution they have. Their apps always look beautiful. So I think that's, your first touch point with an app is to make it look great. So we're working very hard to spin up these great skins and great solutions to make your app look great. But in terms of the actual CSS that you're writing, when you're hand coding, we offer a subset of CSS. You can always change the colors and the fonts. We support Font Awesome. You can use actually keyframe animations now. It's kind of amazing that are translated to native. But some parts of CSS are not supported. For example, sub-selectors, I think they are. Some of the more esoteric elements of CSS are not yet supported. But if you go to the docs, you can see what's available. For the most part, it'll get you where you need to go.
Yeah, like I'm looking at one of the showcase apps, and it looks like it's using Material UI basically as the kind of the design. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. So I'm assuming that's maybe what it's using.
Yeah, somebody released some styles. Actually, someone released a redo of the Ionic Style, so you can make your NativeScript app look like an Ionic app. Yeah, we're working on getting the material design sorted out with plugins, and yeah, this is something that the world is your oyster. It's all wide open, but some people prefer to have a little bit more of a lockdown skin. So we're working on those things.
Yeah, that's nice. I think that's like, to me, the thing that as like not a designer, like I'm terrible at it. But like I look at React Native and think, well, I could build a mobile app over here, but I feel like, it uses a smaller subset of CSS, but I can't really say like, oh, I want to rely on Bootstrap or Material Design. So like, I can't really pull those in and feel comfortable building something from the ground up. Like I need to be much better at CSS. So
yeah, definitely. I think, and I'm not the best designer either. And it's just like, if you can bring something in that will help you, that would be a big money win.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm looking through and reading and so you're writing it in JavaScript, but when it's actually running on the device, it's running at in the native environment. So it's not like a view layer, like a web layer that's running on your phone. Is that right? Am I understanding that properly?
Yeah, it's kind of weird to get your head around. It took me like ages. But it's a runtime, so it's not like Xamarin, Titanium, those are cross compilers. So there's some magic going on as you're building. React Native is a wrapper. Cordova runs in a web view, so that's a different piece entirely. But with us, we're a runtime, so it's basically getting into the weeds of how that all works is a bit of a mess, but we have documentation and good articles on how all this works. But basically, you are writing in JavaScript, and then the runtime is translating what you want to say, draw me a iOS button, draw me an Android button in the runtime. So it's a different solution that's aiming to solve the same problem everybody else is solving, which is to get away from that web view.
Right. Yeah. So what you style, like an example of a button, how would you style that button if you wanted that button to be a color? You styling that in CSS and that's getting translated to the native?
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a couple ways to style it. You can have external style sheets that cover your entire app. You can have platform-specific style sheets. You can do inline styling. you could do inline styling that's platform specific. So it depends on how deep into the customization you want to get. But what I like to do is have general styles at the app level. So I have app CSS, and then I import platform CSS just for those little tweaks that you need to make. And then within each folder, like for my login page, I'll have login XML, that's the presentation tier, login JS, that's the code behind file, and then a login CSS, which has those little extra bits that only pertain to the login page. And that's kind of how I structure the code base in a vanilla JavaScript, NativeScript app.
What is that XML, that markup layer? What do you define in that, in that example, in that login page, in that file, in that folder? What are you defining in that XML file?
Right. So what you're doing is you're drawing out the modules. So NativeScript abstracts away some of the native code that you would otherwise be writing in Objective-C or Java. So if you need to write a button, you're just like open bracket button, class equals my pretty button, and then put a tap function on it, and then that tap function is handled in the code behind file. So
okay.
It's just, I think it's a little bit like XAML. I'm not a Xamarin developer, but it's basically you just designate the layouts and the elements that you want on your page, give it some tap functions or some onload functions, and all of that stuff is handled in your code behind.
Cool. Interesting.
If you want to look at sample code, there's plenty. I could, if there's a chat, I would like walk you through, but I can. Oh, there is a chat.
Yeah, you can paste a link in the chat or something.
Okay, but anyway, we'll do show notes so people can walk through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, include that link in there, and we can put it in the show notes.
Sure.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting too. Like when I was first looking at it, like it's all XML, and it's one of those things like you open it and you're like, you see XML.
Really gross.
I don't want to do XML, but like you look at it and you realize like HTML5 is really just XML under the covers. So
it's
like
markup.
it really isn't that different. And like when you look at like I've looked at React Native code as well, and it's like it's kind of the same thing, right? Like you're building components, and it looks a heck of a lot like XML. So
are they using like an XML type markup too? I've never.
It's not XML, but it is like you're basically just building HTML components. But they're different, right? Like they have like like text components and input components and those kinds of things. So
okay, yeah.
It's just like at first glance they can look pretty similar.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. Like, my gut reaction to XML is like,
yeah,
it doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, and you don't have to do the whole thing in XML. Like I have there's a game that I have in NativeScript called This or That, and that's basically all it is in the XML is just a stack layout, open and close, and then I do the entire development of the web view from the code behind file. So you just like dynamically lay out the images that you want. So that's another way. If you need to listen for taps on certain images that you're dynamically laying out, you're going to want to do that in the code behind file. So there's different ways to do it. But honestly, once you get used to it, it's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
It's pretty interesting.
Are you, for like the data layer, is there, if I wanted to, just am I using the native iOS data storage functions, or how would I, how am I storing data and handling that type of those problems, I guess?
Right. Yeah. So there's many ways to do it depending on which solutions you jump onto. So Telerik has our own Everlive data service, and it's basically it's a REST API service. So you're just sending out queries and you're getting back responses. If you want, we also handle offline usage, but a great plugin that one of our partners developed is for Couchbase. So, and they handle the offline usage beautifully. You can also use, I've done the sample groceries app, I flipped it to use Firebase. So that has that beautiful real time, like you have the two apps open, your kid's grocery list and your grocery list, and you can, see the items coming dynamically down without a pull to refresh. So that's beautiful. In terms of storage, we have plugins for local storage, and we have plugins for SQLite. So you can have those sort of being stored locally. Lots of different ways to handle depending on your use case and how you want to manage your app.
Are those kind of abstracted away from the writing the native iOS format as well, I would define that in something like the XML file or in the JS file.
Yeah, you would just bring in the plugin using a require, and then you would use the methods that the plugin has designated that you should use, like store data, render offline, pull it in, bring back online, that sort of thing. I haven't tinkered too much with the Couchbase solution, but I'm going to give a talk at DevTeach for Firebase, and I need to get that working with the Angular integration. So that'll be really fun, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, my guess is, like, since it's just JavaScript, you could then just rely on any of those tools for the external dependencies like Firebase. So one could bring in like mini Mongo and DDP and like connect to a Meteor backend if they wanted to.
Yeah, somebody is working on a NativeScript Meteor integration right now. It's going to be real interesting. I need to actually get one of my apps off of Parse. Oh, I think of it. It makes it kind of sick. And I think I'm going to put it on Azure. And yay, we have a plugin for Azure. So I think that'll be really great because I need like a CDN type thing. So the nice thing about NativeScript is that it's all open source and there's a big community. So if you don't want to write a plugin, hop on Slack. I just got somebody to write me a plugin for like Keep. I'm like, anybody want to write a plugin for me? They're like, yay. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Interesting.
So one of the other things that I noticed is that you guys have a site called NativeScript Snacks.
That's my site. Yay.
Yeah. I thought I saw you tweeting about it. What is that exactly?
I seem to be obsessed with food, or at least the NativeScript team is, because it's either groceries or snacks. The idea behind NativeScript Snacks was that my manager Burke started creating little 4-minute videos on how to do like a login screen or how to do a local storage or that sort of thing, or how to handle observables. And he made 10 videos, and we realized, we really should spin up a website to handle this stuff. So it's been progressively growing. I think I have 30 videos and snippets right now. My goal is to have 70 by the end of the year. And it's split into two. So you can either have short videos or even longer videos, or code snippets. So what I tried to do is give a little visual of what we're building, and then have XML, JavaScript, and CSS available for people to just grab and paste in. I'm trying to divide the snippets and the videos by whether they're for Angular or not for Angular. So that's the other option. And I think I'm going to enhance the snippets so that you can just download the whole thing as a bundle. So that'll be a nice thing for people to just like slap it into your app and go. Yeah. Everybody likes to just copy paste, let's face it.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think I still have Rails apps that are out there that have Rails cast, like copy and pasted snippets. So
absolutely.
Totally.
That's how you learn.
It's funny. I actually picked up, I love the name NativeScript Snacks because I picked up a similar name. I picked up Meteor Snacks and was thinking a similar thing, but put that on the shelf for now. But yeah, I love that idea. So.
Oh yeah, I mean the code, it's all on my GitHub. So if you want to just grab, go ahead.
Nice. Awesome. So, I mean, what's it, I'm kind of curious too, like what's it like being a dev relations person? Like what's your day-to-day job look like?
It's funny because that's the question I asked when I was being interviewed. I asked my colleague TJ, who was doing an interview. I'm like, TJ, what's your day-to-day? And he's like, oh my God, like what is it not, right? It kind of depends on the time of year. For some reason, see, we do a lot of conferences. So it seems like May was an insane time for conferences, and now it's slowing down a little bit over the summer, and then it'll pick back up in September. So you have your travel schedule kind of like smoothly rolling over the year, and you're getting ready to give talks and work booths. But I am working a lot on an evangelizing platform. I'm supposed to be doing that. And I tend to get sucked into NativeScript a lot. So I'm on Slack with the community a lot because I really love to do that. So the great thing about being DevRel is that you can kind of work to your skills. Some people are great at writing these blockbuster articles on Telerik Developer Network that get 3 million views. I was able to do that once because I called the article JavaScript Engines for Idiots, and people just went ham. So if it's a clickbaity article, apparently you get a lot of clicks. But yes, there's a lot of writing, speaking, traveling, schmoozing, dealing with people above, dealing with the community, and trying not to do stupid things on Twitter. Yeah.
What are the targets for NativeScript just iOS and Android mainly?
Yep, at the moment. We're also, we have a proof of concept for Windows Universal. If you're a Windows developer, you might be interested in that sort of thing. We were looking at Windows Phone, and that's a little bit backburnered.
Yeah.
But definitely iOS.
I know nothing about Windows or Windows development.
Me neither.
I get lost there. Is Windows Universal like a phone and a tablet thing, or whatever they call their tablets?
I think it might be like it would play well on the Surface, that sort of thing.
Surface, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like Google.
Yeah.
But it's like Windows Universal for those guys who are like that stuff. Like, enjoy. Yeah, coming soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Angular 2 integration. Like, what's that look like? And I mean, that's Angular 2 is like almost ready to release, right?
Yeah, they at ngConf they announced release candidate. They are working very hard on getting this to be released completely, and I think they're working on the router at the moment. So this is something we're also waiting on because we're heavily dependent on whatever they do, and we need to support them. So yeah, we're just trying to keep in line with the Google team. We meet with them weekly. So we've as soon as they announced that Angular 2 had decoupled the DOM, then we just jumped on it because we're like, oh my gosh, Angular 2 is no longer a framework, it's a platform at this point. So we can really start building on it. And if you get away from the DOM, you can start building native apps on it and desktop apps. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're just kind of like following as best we can, waiting for that final release and spinning up as many sample apps as we can. We're working on getting the size of the app down and concomitantly the load time. Right now there's a sample app that we released at ngConf really fast, a wind chimes app, and it's done in Angular 2. Somebody gave a talk about using Angular 2 on the web to create wind chimes, and we spun it up to a NativeScript app like really quickly. People have said for a small app, it's a large app size and it loads slow. So those are the two things we're kind of really working on. We're using Webpack to get the size down. You don't need to have the entire gigantic Angular framework bundled into your app. You can compress, pick and choose. So those are kind of our goals. And if your app is so big, it's going to take a while to load up. So that's something that we definitely are working on.
Yeah.
Top priority.
Yeah, I know. Like Webpack can let you do like code splitting and that kind of thing, which would certainly help.
Definitely.
I ran across something this week called Rollup.js. I think that's the name of it. That looks really interesting too because it talked about tree shaking, which I hadn't heard before. But it's the idea like they can figure out pieces of the code that you're actually using, that you're importing and relying on, and pieces that you aren't, and they'll only include the pieces from the files or the library you're relying on that you need, and so therefore like you can really slim down that bundle size as well. So
that's definitely something that we should be looking at. I'm looking at it now. It looks great. I'll pass this over to the team. They're probably all over it, but just in case.
Yeah.
We got like Browserify, Rollup.js, Webpack. They're all trying to solve this problem of like gigantic amounts of code down.
That's the biggest problem I find, especially with like a Meteor app, is just the size of the initial code that you're sending down is just so large. Like looking at Crater.io, which I run, it's like you're sending over almost 2 megs of JavaScript to a device, and when you're on a phone, like that's just kind of a terrible experience, because not only do you have to like wait for it to download, but then you actually have to wait for the phone to kind of process through it and load it all up. So
yeah, I mean, I look at it as like essentially you're charging your customer because you're asking someone on their data plan to download your thing, and I'm like, oh, that's just not nice. So yeah, there's also this concept of app thinning, and I'm not 100% sure I understand exactly what that is, but I wonder if that would work with this.
On iOS, like isn't that where you kind of strip out, like if you're running an iPhone 6, you'll strip out the iPad bits from your app, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What it is. I think that's what it is.
There's another concept too called streaming, which is like sending them just the initial bits to get everything loaded, and then as they need things, like it's being sent down from the App Store as well. So
yeah,
similar idea.
Right. Is that kind of what the Apple TV does? with a lot of its apps. It seems like 'cause it has a smaller
Yeah, maybe.
storage.
I don't know. I've not built one for the Apple TV.
Yeah. Actually, somebody did spin up NativeScript for Apple TV. It seems like way early. And it's like, what are you guys doing?
That's awesome, because I think like that's one of the things that almost annoyed me when the Apple TV came out, is like it doesn't have any kind of web view, and therefore like it can't be a Cordova target at all. So it's
I
like,
see.
you know, you got to throw out what you feel is all that knowledge that you had before. And
Yes. Now, is Meteor making use of a web view? I haven't touched Meteor for ages.
yeah, so they have they use Cordova. They have Cordova integration, so you can add a platform like iOS and Android, and then you can run the build, and it'll just build it using Cordova. And I think with 1.3, they upgraded to the latest versions of Cordova. So like on iOS 8 and 9, you'll get the WK web view.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, that's great.
It helps.
Yeah. I always had a soft spot for Meteor. I just thought, like, I remember when they first came out, and it's just such a great way to just spin up a quick web app and build. Mm-hmm. It's just really fun.
Yeah, it was. It's not anymore. I'm just kidding.
It's a weird time.
Yeah, well, they went to a more paid solution, I guess.
Well, no, they have their hosting, which is good, but they're like it's weird because they're moving to be more node-like, I guess, and so they're starting to have kind of like an actual integration with NPM rather than through their package system. You can directly pull NPM packages in now, which is it's nice, but at the same time, like, you know, I think there's going to be like the next version of 1.4 doesn't look like it adds a lot of features. Like they're just going to be upgrading the latest version of Node, latest version of NPM. It's like, you know, I think there's going to be a little bit of pain as they transition to be more like other Node frameworks for a while.
Yeah,
a lot of the magic kind of went away. A lot of the interesting magic that made things work.
Yeah, I remember
in a simple, but it makes sense because that's how it needs to scale. You know, you don't want all that magic when you're building something big. Yeah. But when you're doing a small, you know, demo or something like that, it's awesome.
Yeah. I remember for hackathons, a lot of people were jumping on it for hackathons.
Yeah. Yep.
Way back in the day. Is there a company behind it?
Yeah, Meteor Development Group. But you know, for them, they're also I think maybe it's a realization that was a small play for them. So they're shifting a lot of their focus into GraphQL and building an implementation of GraphQL that eventually may allow you to do real-time kind of data syncing through GraphQL. So that's their big bet right now.
GraphQL, is it targeting sort of games at all, or like data viz?
No, I think it's just a data solution. So like whatever you want to use it for. And they've got like on the client side, basically it's just going to handle kind of like the client server communication piece through the GraphQL like implementation, and they'll use Redux on the client side to kind of handle all that data store for you.
I see.
It looks like Redux, like they're even using the Redux, like if you want to do Angular or something like that, you can still use Redux. So
yeah, I see there's a whole thing on Blaze, Angular, React, and Vue. Who uses what? There's a whole like discussion. I don't know. There's just so many frameworks that people can pick from, and Angular 2 is not the same as Angular 1 at all, you know, so it's just like there's just a lot to learn. On the other hand, we call that job security, so yay.
Exactly. Like JavaScript fatigue is a real thing.
It is. On the other hand, first world problems, right? We're so lucky to be employed and having fun.
Yes, exactly. Well, for me, like it's great too, because like I was just talking to the creator of Vue.js, and hopefully he'll come on the show soon. So like we've had people talking about React, we're gonna have people talking about Vue, Angular. So like for me, it's a great way to like meet people and talk to them about all this exciting technology. So
well, I think that the real benefit of all of this stuff is the communities around it. Like I used to evangelize for Corona SDK before I was anywhere near Telerik Progress. And the community was just a bunch of indie gamers, indie game dev, like just people trying to create, a fun, cool thing. And I see that with NativeScript. I see this great community being generated, and that's exciting. And it was nice to see the same thing at Angular, at ngconf with the Angular community. There's a great tweet that said, Angular is dead, and there's this like monster panorama of ngconf because it's a single track conference, so there's 1,500 people like with their eyes glued onto the keynote. Angular is dead. Like, nah, the community will always, if the community is awesome, then I think that the framework or the platform will be a win. So
yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think that was kind of all I had today.
Cool.
Did you have any other questions, Chris?
No, that's awesome. It's something I want to check out some more. And it seems, is that the target kind of the larger corporate enterprise type developers, and is that maybe why it hasn't really been on my radar? Because I'm kind of the opposite of that. I'm just a small guy, doing smaller things.
One of the challenges that we've had, of course, is that, of course, we're competing against Facebook for market share. And on the other hand, I think that there are enough people who are looking to solve this problem that I think we're going to be picking up, especially with our integration with Angular 2. I think that's what's really going to make NativeScript start to be on people's radar screens. I think that, yes, we are targeting the enterprise, but we're also targeting those small shops. So anybody who's interested in using this, they can use the open source solution, and we'll support, from bottom to top, whoever needs to use NativeScript for sure. Which is a very vague answer to your question.
No, that's good.
But
fair enough.
But yeah.
No, that's probably a good response, right? Because I remember like Twitter before it was a thing, was just. There was a Rails shop building Odeo, and then they built this little Twitter app using Rails. And nowadays, it's not using Rails, but at the same time, you want people to feel comfortable using that technology and diving in and creating things, because you never know what's going to stick to the wall, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that what will really make and I saw this with Corona SDK, what would really make your framework or your platform stand out is having that, what we call a unicorn app.
Mm-hmm.
For Corona SDK, it was this kid who was 12, and he built a blockbuster game. This is way early in the, it was called Bubble Ball. And it just was huge because it was one of the only things out there. And it was a great story. It was a kid building, and that made Corona SDK. That was their unicorn. For us, I think our unicorn is finally going to be Kiva. So we're really excited about that. So people will be able to use Kiva, download it. It'll have a lot of usage, and a lot of eyeballs are going to be seeing, how performant this is. So once we get that in the App Store, money.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've come to that point of the show where we do our picks. And this can be anything that enhances your life. It doesn't have to be related to tech. I think Ben, my old co-host, stole this idea from JavaScript Jabber. So I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go.
Okay.
So productivity tool. I'm using Wunderlist all the time. Do you guys use Wunderlist?
I use Todoist. I've been trying to. I'm terrible at that.
Yeah.
I have to at this point because I have to do reports every month on what I'm up to.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing that somebody pointed me to at ngconf, actually at the booth, is Moom. It's M-O-O-M, like Zoom, but with M. And it allows you to position your windows on your screen by just mousing over that green button in the browser, and it'll tell you which squares on the quadrant you just want to automatically size your windows to. I don't know. I just find this incredibly helpful, especially for webinars or anytime I have to share my screen and I don't want to look like a complete fool.
Nice. Yeah. No, this is cool.
Like a layout. Yeah.
It's $10, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah. I think I've got something similar called Better Snap Tool, and it's just got points. I can drag something up to the top middle of my screen and it'll full screen it. So it's similar, but I actually think I might like this better.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And then the third completely useless thing, well, not useless, I'm very diligent, is Neko Atsume. Have you downloaded this app on the App Store? It's from Japan. It's a cat collector. You feed them and you give them toys.
Oh,
You buy the things from the stores like Neko Atsume. I'm completely obsessed with this app. But it's one of those things like my boss was saying.
Is this your app?
No, oh my gosh, I wish it was. I'm actually inspired by it. I might create something similar. But my boss was saying, when's the last time you downloaded a mobile app and you really become addicted to it? Neko Atsume. That's the one.
Nice. Yeah. I'll have to check that out. I think my daughter loves apps on her phone, so
there you go.
That sounds like up her alley. I'll jump in next. So I just redid my office.
That's pretty.
Thank you. I like my wife and I were finding like we worked in the same office. We both work from home, and like it was too hard with me doing video calls and stuff. So she took over another room in the house, and like I got to inherit all this great art right here, and it's like all the spaceships from sci-fi movies and TV shows. So
wow.
I don't underestimate the power of like having nice decorations around you, making your room feel great. So.
Nice.
Cool.
I've been so for the last couple months I've been playing with quadcopters, or some people call them drones.
Yes.
Like I've been slowly kind of like really getting into. It's a lot of fun, and it's amazing what you can get for your money. The one that I would recommend on Amazon is a Syma X5C, I think, or Syma X5, SYMA. It's about $40, and it's just a ton of fun, and it's a great like entry-level quadcopter, and it's just go to a big field and learn how to fly that. It's a lot of fun. It's just it's pretty neat. It's amazing how fast and how acrobatic these things are, and it's crazy.
It's the Syma X5C Explorers with HD camera.
Yeah, you can get the camera is it is what it is. It's a $50 quadcopter with a camera on it, but the camera is fun, but it's not it's not the greatest camera in the world. It's definitely fun to see a picture of your roof or something.
Okay, I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, you totally should.
I'm getting it right now. That's a good price, right?
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's a good like entry level starter. It's not too hard. It's not too easy. It can go fast. It can do crazy flips, and you can hit the trees in your house, and it doesn't break. It's awesome. It's fun.
Yeah, I've got a Parrot drone.
Okay,
and,
those are good ones. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I got that so I could start playing with like controlling it via Node, and that was a lot of fun too.
Oh, nice.
But
yeah,
I'm
down that hole for a little while.
I'm totally jealous of like sometimes I watch Casey Neistat on YouTube, and like he's got that Phantom, man. That thing is ridiculous.
It is. I actually had one, and I wound up sending it back.
Oh, did you?
I couldn't. It's so stressful having that up in the air. It's like $1,500, and like it's awesome, but it's also stressful. And I don't know. I wasn't there yet, so I might revisit it in a couple months. But you can't. I was looking into doing some aerial photography as a commercial type business, but I can't without a pilot's license right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a real like sit in a plane and be a pilot. So I don't know if I'm that into it that I want to learn how to actually be a pilot. So I'm going to wait on that front. Play with the $40 toys for a little while.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah, that's been something I've been a distraction for the last 6 months or 3 months actually since the snow melted here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That looks great. Yeah, I just bought it.
Awesome. Enjoy it.
Cool.
The true power of the recommendation.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I mean the price is right?
Yes, definitely. I might have to get it just so my kids can play with it.
Yeah.
My kids are 5 and they want to, but it's hard to not quite there yet. I think they've been watching and kind of learning what I do, and it's so easy to just fly up to as high as it goes and then have it disappear. So
nice.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show, Jen. Really
thank you.
appreciate it.
It was great fun.
Yeah. Awesome. And if anyone is interested, you can go to show.spacedojo.com and find older episodes, and we've got some awesome ones lined up. We're going to be talking to, I don't have it scheduled yet, but we're going to be talking to Lee Byron from Facebook about GraphQL. We're going to be talking to Evan Yu from Vue. So a lot of great topics lined up. And as always, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/Meteor Club, and support this show and the other podcasts I do. So
fantastic.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Talk to you guys later.
This video has been a Spacedojo production. You can click the Learn More button to find out more about us at spacedojo.com. Or you can click the subscribe button to get notified about new videos we put out each week. Thanks for watching.